House Speaker Kevin McCarthy issued his most public and forceful support for Ukraine on Monday. While in Israel, the Republican leader scolded a Russian reporter who suggested he doesn't support sending military and financial aid to Ukraine.
I vote for aid for Ukraine. I support aid for Ukraine. I do not support what your country has done to Ukraine. I do not support your killing of the children either. And I think for one standpoint, you should pull out. And I don't think it's right. And we will continue to support because the rest of the world sees it just as it is.
Until now, McCarthy had avoided stating such direct support for Ukraine, and he had suggested some of his Republican colleagues could block more U.S. support for the country. Joining us now is Charles Kupchan. He's a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and professor of international relations at Georgetown University. Charles, it's good to be with you again. What do you make of Speaker McCarthy's very clear and strong defense of Ukraine?
Well, I think that McCarthy, for now, has affiliated himself with the hawkish wing of the Republican Party. But not long ago, when he was running to be Speaker, he said no blank check for Ukraine. And we do know that on the far right wing of the party, there are very strong voices who think that it's time to rein in the amount of economic and military assistance that the United States is given. Clearly, there's going to be a fight on this issue within the Republican Party. I think it's safe to say that when Biden does go to Congress for more aid to Ukraine, it's going to be harder for him to get everything that he wants than it was with the Democrats in control.
And now to the region. Russia's defense minister said Tuesday that the Kremlin is doubling production of guided missiles, other weapons and military equipment. What do you make of that statement? Should we treat it seriously? And if so, what do you make of it?
Well, the Russians, for the first time in quite a while, have started to hit Ukrainian cities again with missiles, long-range standoff weapons. What I think is going on here is deterrence. They're trying to send a message to the Ukrainians that we are prepared to hit back hard against your cities if you launch an offensive. I don't think it's going to deter the Ukrainians. They are getting ready to launch a major offensive in the southern part of the country. So I think what we're looking at here is a bloody summer in which the Ukrainians seek to break the land bridge that connects Crimea to Donbass. The Russians will do everything they can to blunt that offensive and continue to take shots at Ukrainian cities and infrastructure.
President Zelensky mentioned, as you said, a bloody summer. President Zelensky said main battles are coming soon. What's the advantage of telegraphing this? We've heard for weeks, maybe even months, about this counteroffensive. What's the benefit of doing that? And help us understand strategically what that land bridge from Crimea to Donbass, why that's an important objective for the Ukrainians.
Well, I think that Zelensky is rallying the Ukrainian public. He's rallying his troops. And he knows that public opinion in the U.S., in Europe, has begun to grow a bit softer. So he wants to make sure that his own people in the West stand behind him. So far, so good. Biden, his colleagues in Europe, continue to say, we will support Ukraine for as long as it takes. The land bridge is a chunk of territory that connects Russian holdings in the northern and eastern part of the country, what we call Donbass, with the Crimean Peninsula, where the Russians keep their Black Sea fleet. And what the Ukrainians are going to try to do is sever that land bridge, and that will make it easier for them to try to envelop Crimea. Whether they would actually then try to take back Crimea remains to be seen. But if they can break the land bridge, they can certainly strengthen their hand at the negotiating table if, in fact, they end up in negotiations either later this year or when we next see a military stalemate emerge. I don't think we're going to see a clear Ukrainian victory. The question is, what then once a new stalemate emerges, even if it's further east?
And let me quickly ask you about that negotiating table. President Xi Jinping spoke to Zelensky last year for the first time. What do you make of that? Is that any prelude to a negotiating table, or is there a Chinese route to possible negotiations?
Probably too soon for that. I think the Chinese are on a charm offensive. They negotiated a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Then he flew Xi Jinping to Moscow, met with Putin. Now he's reaching out to Zelensky. I don't think we're going to see the Chinese play a real important role here as a mediator. Down the road, however, if there's anybody who can put pressure on Putin to rein him in, it's Xi Jinping. Maybe he'll play that card down the road.
Charles Kupchan, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much, Charles.